Hello, and welcome to My Counselor Live. My name is Brittany East, and our featured counselor today is Adina James. Adina is taking a look about the ways that we can really love our spouse that can take our relationship from not just a good marriage to being a really great marriage. Before we dive into this much needed topic, Adina, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself for those viewers who may not know you yet?
Yes, I would be happy to. So I have been working in the therapy field for a few years. Really love it. Love being part of my clients' transformational process as they take steps toward reaching their goals. My counseling background is working with children, teens, young adults, and families using cognitive behavioral therapy as well as therapies for PTSD. And recently, I've really enjoyed transferring over to MCO and using emotionally focused therapies with the same population and also integrating in some couples work.
Awesome, Adina. It's really great to hear your background. I'm excited for your expertise today. So your article is titled, Offense is the Best Defense, 12 Ways to Love Your Spouse. So what really inspired you to write this article?
Well, I had been doing a lot of reading and research on infidelity, and I wanted to know if it could possibly be preventable, and if so, what components would make that up. And that is another story. And but as far as it depends on us, building a strong marriage is a component of that. And so I got researching on what can make up a strong marriage. And perhaps be a part of the picture of saving someone from having to even go down that path as far as it could depend on them. Of course, there are limits to what one can control, but I wanted to know what could a person do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love just like seeing like an issue and trying to see what can we positively do on the front end. I like that offense is the best defense. So is this article really envisioning just married couples benefiting from this article, or who do you think would like benefit most from reading it?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's for anyone who is married, who is going to be married, who has been married, who wants to be married someday. Really, anyone breathing, you know, I think could benefit from this. I would hope. Just one who wants to know the components that make up a strong marriage and how they can take practical steps today to implement those components daily over time that will help them become the type of person who can have the type of marriage that they want, presumably one that is lasting and fulfilling and others focused and life generating.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And at the beginning of your article, you talk about like sources of affirmation and how we can really, a lot of times we kind of make our spouse be our like absolute source of affirmation. But you said in your article that may not be like the best idea. So where do you think, if they're like the only source, so where do you think is a good like areas for people to get affirmation from, like once they're married?
It's a good question. I think it should come from your spouse, but not only from your spouse. I believe God made us to rely deeply on our significant other, or else that attachment bond wouldn't be of such primary importance and be such a big deal when it's broken. However, the trouble comes when we're looking only to that person for our meaning or importance in life, for needs that are primarily designed to be met by God as far as how we define ourselves, and secondarily shared by our spouse as well as family and friends, because our spouse is going to let us down and can't be everything to us. So relying on God's never wavering love for defining our self-image is very important. And also just relational needs. Like you need family, you need friends, you need whatever it is that you enjoy, the sewing friends, the frisbee golf friends, to the soulmates to still be part of your life.
No, that totally makes sense. And then you mentioned like, after that, just about how like our spouses are like obviously not going to always make us feel good, or they're going to be kind of the person in our lives who can most likely point out our faults. And you talked about it being like a really good thing that spouses can provide like a realistic mirror.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is such a good thing that a spouse can do that for us?
Well, because I think it's truly a great gift because it helps us to grow, to have someone ideally who would do it with love, but to show you your faults and
Mm.
to help refine your character. I think it makes us more like God, makes us a kinder uh, person for our own life, for our spouse, and for um, other people around us. And I think it's truly a gift to be in a marriage like this, where you can uh, do that for the other person.
Yeah, I really appreciate just how you framed it as a gift. You know, so like, oh, like they should only tell me the good things. No,
Right.
I said like the insecurity. They know everything. But yeah, it's like okay, like just having that mindset. Even for me, like a little, you know, I've been married for 8 years. Love my husband. We do a very like back and forth. Can be very open with each other if we have griefs or whatever. But it was just even a cool mind shift. Like think about like, oh, like this is such a gift that we get to be married and
Yes.
have someone who sees the whole gambit.
Yes.
If we're
Yeah.
trying to like be more like Jesus or grow closer to God, like they can really
Mhm.
help that along.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
True.
I really liked even like, you know, in your article, like you have a quote and it says like, if we look to marriage to be the source of our happiness, then the probability of affairs occurring is high. Our culture has changed so that we look to marriage to bring us happiness, excitement, joy, fulfillment, meaning, friendship. And your like response when you read that too is like, this is just too big a responsibility for any
Mhm.
one person.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel like when you know like and I like highlighted all that. I was like I love that just because it is but I feel like even when I first got married I almost
Mhm.
did that very subconsciously, like gave my spouse a lot of that responsibility.
Oh
Do you feel
yeah.
like that's more like a modern issue or a modern like today problem? Do you feel like it's kind of, or has that always been how marriage is? We trying to just, it's just like a natural cycle that happens where you put like all this responsibility on your spouse? Or are you thinking
I think it is more of an issue today. I would think just because of the way the demographics of the way we've lived have shifted so much that our spouse is our person that we may move away with, and they are our family unit. We're away from our
mm,
family, we're away from our friends, we're away from our communities. So I think it's natural that even more of the a burden, if you want to use that word, for our social and enjoyment, self-fulfillment is put on them, unless we really think about it.
yeah, no, I appreciate, yeah, it's just like a really insightful even to think that and just realizing that's not how, like realizing there's a lot more out there to spread that load, but like thinking through like, oh, that is
Mhm.
really a lot to put on one person, especially a
Yes.
spouse, and like even your viewpoint of like
Yes.
trying to prevent infidelity, like how that could be like a big
Mhm.
stressor. And then you even
Mhm.
go on to give like an overview that there's actually like 3 stages of marriage, like of marriage that
Mhm.
couples go through. Do you mind giving
Mhm.
like a brief overview of each stage?
Oh, sure. Yes. So the three of them are: number one is romantic love. So this is where you're in the fun honeymoon or rose-colored glasses stage, and this is usually lasts 6 months to 2 years, and it's kind of from the time that you fall in love. So you may not even be married yet. You may still be
Mm,
dating or engaged, and it's not a bad thing. It's a God-given thing, but it's important to know that it doesn't last forever, and just because it
mm,
doesn't mean you've necessarily done something wrong or married the wrong person. um, the second stage is called disillusionment and or distraction. So yeah, you fall out of that stage and you can become disillusioned. It takes hard work to make
mm.
marriages and families stable, and also distraction. I mean, you're distracted by kids, your career, maybe aging parents. There's just a lot going on in this stage.
Yeah.
Um, the final stage is called dissolution, adjustment with resignation, or adjustment with contentment. So here it's like a fork in the road. You can decide to dissolve your marriage, continue just being resigned with how it is if it's not that great, or decide to work hard to get to a point of enjoyment and contentment in your marriage.
Yeah, those totally makes sense. And I think what you pointed out too is it's not like the romantic love in the beginning. Like that's a wonderful part and it's a God
Yeah.
given part.
Yes.
I think we do kind of feel like that. I mean, yeah, like I said, I've been married for 8 years,
Yeah.
dated before that. And so I'm sure
Mhm.
you maybe felt the same thing where it's like you feel like you do have that moment of like, oh, wait, doesn't feel like it used to, like when we first
Yeah.
started. And it can feel like, what did we do wrong? But like, I think I'm just grateful that you're bringing like awareness that it's just it's like almost like
Mhm.
someone growing up. Like it's not
Right.
like a
Right.
teenager's not a baby and it's not, there's not anything wrong. It's just different
Yes,
now. Like,
exactly. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and so
Mhm.
do you feel like a couples can kind of like, does that happen a lot with like when you within your therapy, the couples that you see where they feel like something went wrong because they don't feel like butterflies all the time and like that just like
Mm,
intense attraction?
mhm. I think so. I think that people don't realize, I think I didn't realize how much work it takes to maintain, not let alone maintain, let alone grow a good marriage or grow a better marriage. That
Mm.
it doesn't just happen naturally if you're a nice person. Maybe it does, but it didn't
Yeah,
doesn't
no, I understand. Yeah,
it
no,
takes, it
yeah.
takes work. It takes work and investment of time and energy
Mm,
and skills. How to, fighting or what to do with anger. Like a lot of
yeah.
skills in different areas.
No, that totally makes sense. I and
Mhm.
also appreciate like, yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
work, but like
Yeah.
good work
Yes,
that we
exactly.
get to do.
Yes. Yes.
And I know you like brought up like like a point with like yeah like the
Mhm.
second stage, either disillusion or distraction. Like
Mhm.
what do you think are there like practical things people can do when they're in that second
Mhm.
stage to
Mhm.
kind of not end up in the like roommate thing like by the time they kind of hit stage 3 or like
Yeah.
is it just inevitable?
I think going through these stages is inevitable, but hitting, coming to a place of resignation with it not feeling good, that is not inevitable. You can do
Mm,
things to not end up there, or not, you don't have to stay there if you are there. So
mm,
I think it's a few things. It's willingness to put in the work that we were talking about. It's hopefulness to realize that
mm.
you can change how you feel by changing how you treat someone
Wow.
and what you learn. Um, and even if you feel like you may have fallen out of love, you have not done something wrong. Um, it's a stage. You can learn to cherish and honor that person again, to enjoy their company, um, and to know that it really is worth it. Like there really is a beauty in the last stage, and there's your hard work is not all for nothing.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And
Mhm.
I appreciate even that there's not any stage. I mean, I guess maybe like finally if you're separated, but there's not
Mhm.
really a stage where you hit where there's like all hope is lost. Like you can
Yes.
go back if you want to put in the work,
Mhm.
which I think is interesting. I feel like that's not really the viewpoint that's I think presented to society a lot of times. It's like, well, when you've hit this point in your
Mhm.
marriage, like if these feelings are there, like there's just nothing to turn it around, nothing you can do.
Right.
But I think even like you like kind of mentioned, like sometimes even just like the actions, maybe letting the actions start, something
Mhm.
that's like
Mhm.
conscious, and then having like
Mhm.
subconscious like emotions like follow.
Right.
Is like an
Right.
interesting. I mean, it makes sense when I think about it.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
like, oh, like yeah, that makes sense. Even just like something
Yeah.
small like that, we can control our own actions towards
Yes.
someone, and even
Yes.
that being a small thing of going
Mhm.
towards closer to contentment versus like resignation.
Mhm.
So
That's
I really
true.
appreciate that little like piece of
Yeah.
hope.
Mhm.
Um, and for any like couples or people that are listening
Mhm.
today, what final piece of advice would you
Mhm.
give them as they're watching this and they're thinking through like their marriage?
Oh, well, I would just say if you're married and going through a tough time, don't give up.
Mm,
And a caveat to this is, I you know, if if there's abuse going on, that's different than this. This is not, I'm not saying like keep going, like
right.
no, stop, get help. eh,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need to. But if it's something that you can work through and you both at all want to, this is
Mm,
the place where you learn to become the person that you both can be to make it work. So take advantage of, again, the gift that you have, even if it's difficult in seasons. So also, this stages are a stage. They don't last forever.
mm.
You got into it, you can get out. So and you're not alone. It's very important. Read the books, go to the websites, join a small group at church, go to seminars, get a counselor. Like there is help out there, and it really does help, and it fast tracks. If you were for example, if this was going to take you 5 years, like get some help, and you can get out of stages more quickly that are difficult. So if you're not married yet, learn about these stages so that when you hit them, you don't think, the world is ending or you've done something wrong. And, you know, just don't give up. Keep working on it.
Yeah, I really like that message of hope. And
Mhm.
Adina, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. I just appreciate just your heart for people to really like, you want them to succeed and you want to give them like maybe people, it sounds like you really want people to feel like equipped when they're entering
Mhm.
situations just with like
Mhm.
knowledge, like how far like
Mhm.
knowledge can take us.
Mhm.
And then just even like self-awareness that like maybe we tend to do those things because of like societal, like not necessarily pressures, but just culture, like how we treat our
Mhm.
spouses, the expectations we put on them, but doesn't mean that has to be that way. And
Mhm.
all the beautiful ways that like God wants to work in our lives to like spread out, like just
Mhm.
like the hardships that can come in a marriage and
Mhm.
like the community that should be around to like help with that. So really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And to anyone who's watching, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen, to watch. We love getting to share our counselors' insight with you and give you an idea of even what our counselors can help people work through and just their heart to really be present with anything that you're going through. And if you have not already subscribed to our channels on social media, you can find us on Facebook if you search Love My Counselor. On Instagram, our handle is also Love My Counselor. And on YouTube, you can definitely catch any old counselor interviews and questions there if you search MyCounselor.Online Christian Counseling. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another episode of My Counselor Live.